Geoholic.
Hey there, Geoholics. This is the first episode of the 2025 Pacific Rim Conference. We had a little bit of audio issues when we first got there. Internet was bouncing around a little bit. And of course, Kent has got his peanut gallery comments. Yes, we were without Kent, but we'll pick this up. We missed about the first couple minutes of Victor. Victor with Stantec. He was huge help for us getting us there and help coordinating the whole conference. And we'll pick him up in about a minute and a half after he started and take it from there.
I want everyone within the Pacific Rim to come out to Hawaii.
That's awesome.
So we do have folks from Oregon here, California, Utah, American Samoa. And we have all the islands represented here at our conference.
And speaking of that, are there different challenges or different experiences from surveyors and GIS folks across the islands? Like, is there different perspectives in different islands that you learn about here at the conference?
Who's the best surveyor? Which island?
Yeah.
Well, that would be the company I work for, Stantec.
Yeah, go ahead. Hey, shameless plugs are okay. We highly encourage any kind of shameless plugs here.
Who do you work for? What's the website?
Yeah. All right. Stantec.com. I'm the lead surveyor for Stantec here in Hawaii.
Okay. How big is the team here?
We have 4 surveyors, 3 or 4 GIS staff members. So we have a geospatial group here, and actually last night we were hanging out and just talking geospatial, right?
Sure.
The GIS folks, the surveyor folks, telling our stories, talking about the difficulties working in Hawaii. I would say for surveyors, it's really cool to get those jobs on Kauai. I've been fortunate. I've hit all the islands except a couple. I've been on Kauai, Molokai, Lanai. Big Island, Hawaii, and of course, Oahu.
Wow.
Oh. So I'm flying in, and I've never been to the island, or any of the islands. So just in shock, I'm sort of sleeping. Next thing I know, I look out to the left, and there's the Big Island. And there's just a huge freaking volcano.
It's
in
big,
the middle.
yeah.
And I was like, oh. And I think the guy sitting next to me thought I was staring at him, maybe, but it was impressive.
Well, and it's erupting. Kilauea. If you get a chance to go out to the Big Island, right now, every 2-3 days, she's erupting.
Really?
Oh, and it's spectacular. Like, you gotta
angry?
go. No, she's putting on a show. Like, Madame Pele. She's there. She's active, and go at night or early if you want like a really peaceful, Zen kind of moment. Go there in the morning around 5 o'clock in the morning. There's no one there, and you can just see this volcano erupting and the glow. You gotta check it out on the web, like some recent photos. They're amazing.
I've been over there before, and the other cool thing is, it is dark at night. Like you can the stars are just unreal way on the Big Island.
It is.
I was super. That was one thing that just still stuck to me. We were driving back, and we just had to pull over and just laid on the hood of the car and just watched. It was amazing.
Did you get up to the top of Mauna Kea? Because you could drive all the way up to the.
We didn't make it up to the top. We just did like a little day trip, kind of. Basically, as long as it's a big island, like we thought, oh yeah, we'll just bounce over there and be back for dinner. No.
You're driving around.
So I have another question,
yes.
And we talked about this a little bit, and I'm questioning if it came up in any of your guys' discussions planning for this conference. Is there, or when do you think is going to be the time when we don't say there's surveyor folks and don't say there's GIS folks and there's just geospatial folks? Is that in the horizon? How close are we?
I think we're there. Like geospatial, like just within Stantec, geospatial is being used for all our GIS folks, and geospatial is being used for all our land surveyor folks. So that's kind of the terminology we're now using.
I'm having this flashback when the host of the Geoholics, Kent Grow, used to work at Stantec.
Oh,
that's right.
And then I remember,
where is he? What happened?
And then I remember him interviewing me a bunch of times to run a LiDAR truck for Stantec. And so, I'm having flashbacks all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's how I first met
Never
Ken.
burn a geospatial bridge, right?
Yeah.
So we always ask everyone, how did you get into this business, Victor?
Okay, well, here's my story. I went right after the military. I went to San Francisco State. It's actually GIS that got me interested in mapping.
Okay.
Everybody
So
hear
I
that?
was part of
GIS.
the
It was a GIS origin.
It's a GIS
All
origin.
right,
So
all
I was
right.
part of the geography department. I declared my major. I was going to be an urban planner and use that really cool new tech, GIS technology back then, ArcInfo, right? But I ended up moving to Alaska. There was no geography department there, but there was this. But GIS was the word I was looking for, right? The class, and the surveying and mapping program in Alaska in 1990 had a GIS component to it. So I didn't know what surveying was, but it had GIS, and that's all I cared about. And I jumped into that program and
Never look back?
never looked back.
Except for when you were doing a backside, right?
Except for the backsides. Check in, check out. But I still was fascinated by GIS. The surveying part, I'm not interested in that. So my first job was in Richland County, South Carolina, as a GIS analyst coordinator for Richland County in South Carolina. So my focus was, I'm just going to do GIS. I've got the background. I'm going to do this. Long story short, I moved back home to California, and GIS wasn't a thing in California. Like in South Carolina, GIS was big. Like they got a really good program at USC, University of South Carolina.
Oh yeah. We are
Plus
innovative.
the barbecue, right? I miss the barbecue. So I decided, well, I'll jump into surveying. That's my degree. And luckily, you find those people, those mentors, and up until then, my experience with surveying was kind of rough, right? The old crusty party chiefs that like to yell and get out there. But I found a great mentor. He showed me the fun. He showed me how construction staking could be fun.
Yes, I love that.
Right? And so I was like, okay, I can do this. And after that, I got my license. I never looked back, but I was still always interested in GIS, so I always took those the CLSA, the California Land Surveyors Association. We need a GIS, liaison. I'll do that, and so I've always kind of stayed in that realm. Moved out to Hawaii to teach at the local community college land surveying. But while I was there, we got a grant. We put together a GIS course for the other islands, the outer islands.
Oh, really?
And so that particular program has gone through its second phase, and now it's mostly all geospatial. It's land surveying, it's GIS, it's remote sensing, it's drone mapping.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the community college in Hawaii, Hilo. So the HEC, the Hawaii Community College, Hilo. They've got a great program here. And that's one of the things that we've been trying to do here as the Hawaii Land Surveyors Association is education. The bummer thing here is we don't have any colleges or we don't have a space for folks to go in and learn this profession that we love. But now we kind of do.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
And before we let you go here, because I know you're really busy, what benefits do conferences like this do to promote education? And you mentioned mentoring, and how important is that in the community?
Well, we have a lot of students here. We have UH Manoa here on Oahu, so we have several of those students coming over. The way we ask our students, or the students' bodies, we have a bunch of professors here from all the UH, so UH Hilo, UH Manoa. They're bringing their students, so we give them a discount to come out. But of course, we're letting them know the same kind of thing. Laulima, come, network. This is where you're going to find a job, possibly, right?
Sure.
And so we're connecting employers with students to join this profession, right?
Oh, that's amazing.
I just have to ask, because I think the mentor thing is so important. Who is your mentor you mentioned? Give him a shout out, or her a shout out.
Mark Lewis.
Mark Lewis. Okay.
Mark Lewis out of the Central Coast, but he's passed away since.
All right. Well, he's looking down right now.
He, when you have those bro moments, what I like is I did thank him before he got sick or anything. I thanked him and told him, look, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be a surveyor.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, well, you got to take us out. You brought us in here. I appreciate you coming on, obviously, to get us started. What are the parting words that you want to instill on everybody as we kick off the next 2 days?
Or a mantra. Do you have a mantra? We like mantras at the Jew Hall.
Well, I would just go back to La Lima, many hands working together. This is what has driven me since I was in school to bring that connection between the GIS mapping and surveying and smashing those two together and creating great things, great maps, great stories. In fact, I was going to tell you, Nick, if ever you get a chance to go to Oaxaca, the Zapotec culture there.
Okay.
If you get to go there to do all that kind of laser scanning stuff, let me know. That's my dad's people, the Zapotecs.
Okay.
And they were around just the same time as the Mayans.
Ah, that's
Don't
cool.
threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
Victor, thank you so much for inviting us. We look forward to the next 2 days and find some time to enjoy yourself. I know you're a busy man this week. So again, thanks for everything and we look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Right on.
All right, we're back, rolling right along. I think a session just got out. Got a bunch of good people in this room. We got a cool guest next, kind of connected on another level. But Heath, why don't you give us your name, what you do, and who you're with?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Heath Huovinen. I'm a land surveyor here in Hawaii, also licensed in North Carolina. I work for the Independent Hawaii Surveyors
Okay, great.
on the Big Island of Hawaii.
Okay. All right, so many questions. First off, how long have you lived here and been practicing in Hawaii?
So moved here in summer of 22 and got my license and took the exam 21. Yeah, took the exam in 21 and got the license in May of 21. Worked for this company part-time. Concurrently, I was working for NC State University,
really?
heavily involved in the GIS side of things at NC State.
He may or may not be an NC State alum.
I am a graduate of North Carolina State University.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, so I was the university surveyor over there, and we did a major transformation of data from paper to geodatabase, an enterprise geodatabase. Several applications, all Esri products. Yeah.
That's amazing. Small world.
So we're just going to go ahead and mention never, ever burn a geospatial bridge because you may show up on an island thousands of miles away and know somebody.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you get into this business? How did you get into surveying and geospatial?
So I didn't know what I wanted to do in college.
Okay, that's a common theme.
Yeah, I went through a drafting and design program at a community college in Opelika, Alabama. I lived in Auburn, Alabama. And
So War Eagle?
No, Roll Tide.
Oh, okay.
Alabama.
All right.
Grew up in Montgomery. It's just Auburn is just where I decided to go after high school. Started working with a land surveyor, small, kind of one-horse operation, small business. Enjoyed the land surveying business. From there, went to a civil engineering firm in Richmond, Virginia. Then worked for a surveying company in Boone, North Carolina.
Okay.
And then eventually at NC State University as the university surveyor there. It was a lot of utility, kind of locating, documenting, underground utilities. Got into doing some small surveying jobs there. Did a inventory of all the lands that the state owns across the state. So there's around a little over 100,000 acres mapped using the parcel fabric, created a web application.
So what would you say to somebody aspiring to be a surveyor today? What would you tell them to go do, rub shoulders with, read about?
Yeah, so that's kind of huge because there's, like I think you had mentioned, there's a lot of, or maybe it was Victor, there's a lot of old guys in surveying. Well, those old guys still have a lot of good knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, they may or may not be into the technology. But regardless of that, those guys are the ones who are passing down the knowledge of how to retrace those boundaries, which is huge in the surveying profession. And embrace the technology. The technology is really one of the things that keeps me enjoying the profession. Utilize GIS data. There's a lot of people out there that have put the information that surveyors have gathered throughout the decades into data sources that make it real easy to get to. When you talk about accessing property deeds through GIS web-based maps,
So I just have to ask, do you do any legal boundary type stuff still?
Oh yeah.
So do you write out your own legal? Or
oh yeah.
You're not using ChatGPT to
no,
make
no. Although I just got into ChatGPT just a couple weeks ago, trying to learn more about using drones.
What we've learned
business.
is you get about 80% of the way of a legal description.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about what you're doing now. You said you're with the independent Hawaii Surveyors.
Surveyors,
Yeah.
yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, what's that?
We're pretty much a boundary surveying firm. Most of our work is residential surveys. We do some subdivisions. We do construction layout, topographic surveys. But we're pretty dead set with the surveying profession and not really going outside of those boundaries.
What are some of the
pun intended?
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Every pun intended.
Yeah. That's all the puns. What are some of the differences that you've experienced doing that here versus on the mainland?
So the biggest one is state plane coordinates. Here in Hawaii, boundaries are tied to trig stations that may or may not even exist anymore. So you're not actually physically measuring to that trig station when you create a subdivision of some property. You're taking that measurement from the map that showed it before.
Interesting.
When you
Okay.
say trig station, is there a monument there at that point, or there's
There
nothing?
were
At some point.
and a point in time, it was used to kind of map all the coasts of the islands and kind of tie the islands together. But these were all done like in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So at least in Hawaii County, I can't really speak about the other counties too much, but so all these properties within 2-3 miles of this one trig station are tied to this trig station by a northing and easting distance. And so that trig station is 0-0. Well, this trig station over here is 0-0 also, and all the properties over there are tied to this trig station. And those trig stations are tied together, but not in the sense that this trig station is 0-0 and this one's 5,000, 5,000, and this one's 10,000, 10,000.
Interesting. Okay.
So maybe at the beginning, people weren't really thinking about, the longevity of how this system would work in the next 100 years.
And it hasn't transpired into anything new.
So the actual projected state plane system of Hawaii, do you have multiple zones then? Are you in
There
a
are
single
multiple
zone?
zones, yes. 5, I believe, but again, we don't really use we don't utilize, as a company, we don't utilize state plane coordinates so much. And maybe we could, just kind of for our own inventory purposes of the jobs that we've done, like on the islands. We could put all those together on a state plane coordinate system, where we could not put all those together based on trig ties that they're tied to.
So how is...
Super interesting.
Yeah. One more nerdy question for you, and then I want to get to the important part of the conversation, the Grateful Dead.
Yes.
How is Hawaii preparing for the NatRef 2022, so the new coordinate system, datum rather?
I wish I had more knowledge of that. Just in what we do in our day-to-day, we don't really get into state plane coordinates much. Ed Carlson would be the guy to talk to. He's the
The state rep.
the state rep for NGS. Yeah,
Got it.
He wouldn't by chance be here, would he?
I believe he is.
I don't know
although
when a
I have
plan
not,
comes
although
together.
I have not seen him.
So you just got some homework, but if you want to find him and bring him over the next few days.
Yeah, right.
Right on.
Okay, so best Grateful Dead show, best song. Got any favorites?
Oh
Things you like to
gosh,
think
oh
of?
gosh.
Just take a pause for our listeners that aren't interested in this, but I am interested in hearing this answer.
Yeah, so I play mandolin and guitar, so I'm a musician as well. I just love a good terrapin, a good shakedown street, some of the more heartfelt songs, Standing on the Moon.
So as a mandolin player, do you like some of Jerry's, like the Jerry Band stuff?
Oh
When you
yeah,
play with
absolutely. Love
David
Jerry
Grisman,
Band. Oh yeah,
Pizza tapes.
so that's kind of how I got into bluegrass, was through Old and in the Way, and through David Grisman, the duo
the Jerry and David. Oh yeah.
that got me into mandolin. I was like, oh, that instrument sounds awesome. I love that.
Do you know a guy named Michael Kane from the String Cheese Incident? He's
Oh
a
yeah,
mandolin player.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure you're spending some time in Boone. You kind of expanded your bluegrass.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that's where it really blossomed, right?
Totally. Yeah, we had a lot of good festivals. Real close to Merle Fest. Merle
Yeah.
Fest is 25 miles away or so from Boone.
So have you heard of a band called Billy Strings?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Billy
Yeah.
Strings is good.
He is.
All right, circling back. I got to pull us back. What have you been to this conference before?
This is my third time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's been your experience so far?
Just wonderful people, wonderful community. I do like to see the GIS community and the surveying community, coming together. I think you had mentioned North Carolina. It's been a little bit of a battle, historically, maybe a decade ago. Maybe not so much now, but there's a lot of states that try to draw these lines that say, hey, this is GIS and this is surveying. You need a license for this, you don't for this. And that line's not so clear in all aspects,
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it's a geospatial community. These two groups need to be together and should be together.
I won't say this more than this one time, but states like North Carolina did draw a line at one point,
Oh, yeah.
and it didn't really work out for them too well. So I think the idea of things coming together is ultimately where it goes.
Yeah.
And I asked Victor this question. I want to ask you. I want to ask you as well. Do you ever see, or do you think we're in a space now where there is a difference between a GIS person and a land surveyor person, or are those tracks combined now, or are they still in different lanes?
Yeah, I believe there are different lanes. It just depends on what facet of GIS you're working on and what facet of surveying you're working on. If you're talking about boundary surveys, property titles, GIS guys don't need to be getting into that, because that's a whole a judicial type decision-making power that surveyors have. And, we don't need to be classifying invasive species in forests in the middle of a forest where we have no reference points, and we don't know what the different species of plants and what we need to be looking for. That's not what we do in our day-to-day. I think the similarities are when you're looking at surveying utilities, mapping utilities, and providing data about those utilities to the utility company or to the public or the people who maintain those facilities. I think there is a cross there, because how accurate do you want those utilities to be on a map, and can you certify to the accuracy? And how many fields of data do you want attached with that pipe, with that water valve, that fire hydrant?
That's the thing. I know, Sean, you get it in your day job as a PE owner,
Oh, yeah.
dealing with surveyors, GIS, and engineers. I just want to see all the survey data get into the GIS properly. The day that happens, the GIS people don't need to map it. Like, I want you to take that liturgical approach, right? But why can't that data just more easily live in the geodatabase than the CAD file sitting on a local hard drive?
Oh yeah, totally.
And I just can't wait for that day. I think we're getting closer.
And the GIS side of that is like, okay, so that water valve was installed in 1947. They got a lifespan of, say, I don't know, 50 years. You know, how many of these water valves do we have in our system that we need to be thinking about replacing soon? That's the analytics side of the data that is powerful and is totally the GIS side, but it's built off maybe the surveying data and collection.
Well, and I think that there is so many opportunities for combining those efforts to where if you're entering in the location data, then 5 more data points. And I can say this, most of that stuff is on the plans. The manufacturer, the type, all those information is on the same set of plans that all the surveyors are using, and combining that, I mean, the possibilities are limitless, I guess. Anything else you want to get out there? We do ask a question to everybody, all of our guests, and I'm curious your answer. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
A mantra that I live by. Well, you know, each day is a new day. You wake up with a fresh set of thoughts. You wake up with a fresh beginning. What happened yesterday? You know, while you do carry these things, you know, it's always good to start with a new, fresh day and outlook on life every day. Not forgetting what you gained in the past, but today's a new day, and let's, you know, start with a new attitude.
Well said. I love it.
Carpe diem.
That's right. That's right.
Heath, I appreciate you stopping by.
Right, thank you
Enjoy
guys.
the rest of the show.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Mahalo.
All right, here we go. We are back again. Rolling right along. We have Sarah with us. Sarah, if you could, give us your name, who you're with, and what you do.
Hi, I'm Sarah Halpern. I'm Vice President of the Board of Directors for the Hawaii Geographic Information Coordinating Council. I'm also a geospatial scientist at SWCA Environmental Consultants.
Okay, great.
You might know some SWCA people.
I do actually know some SWCA people.
Or do we still call it SWCA?
I do hear SWCA, but within the company, everyone always refers to it as SWCA.
Okay. Sounds like a mouthful, but that first job was also a mouthful. So let's start there. So that's, I've heard this acronym like 6 times already this morning. HIGC.
HIGIDC.
HIGI. Yeah, they say it so fast. Talk a little bit about that. What's the organization and what's your role with it?
Yeah, so we are the Hawaii Geographic Coordinating Council, once again. We're a local nonprofit that basically connects GIS professionals in the state of Hawaii. And so that's everything from networking events and pauhanas to meet people and talk story.
Real quick. Mainlanders here.
Happy hour.
We know that.
We now you're speaking our language.
Yes.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, fun networking events. We do trainings. Just last year, we did a training on a weekly content for training people to study for their GISP.
Okay. We talked a lot about that on the show.
A Tony.
Yeah. We know Tony's speech. Yeah, he's
the one that did the training.
He's a friend of the program. Yeah, he's one of our sponsors.
Awesome. So we also do a lot of volunteer events. We do a GIS day with another local nonprofit, with a bunch of the schools in the area.
Love that. Talk a little bit. What's the GIS day like? Like, what do you guys do?
Last few years, it's been with STEMworks. It's another nonprofit.
Okay.
And they brought in middle schoolers from a couple different schools, and we did kind of a rotation of different events teaching the students about GIS. So I led a small drone, presentation, and then we let them fly drones around the room, which was pretty chaotic.
Oh, I'm sure.
So tell me about that.
Well, we ended up with a lot of broken drones, I'll say that.
Okay. All right. No hair, no propellers in the hair.
Couple of those.
And so I'm guessing there's some tears, and sounds like a normal work day, right?
Yeah. Stress work days I've had, actually, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that the kids got a lot out of it. So.
Well, I'm sure they do. Asking a question that I already know the answer to, but why would you do something like that with the middle school kids? What's the importance of that?
So that they're our future and they understand what we can do, especially coming from an environmental perspective of how we can use technology and the tools that we have today to help better our environment.
Do you think they got it, or do you think you caught some kids?
So, I gave a presentation about remote sensing prior to the drone fun, and I think a lot of them picked up on, the idea of sensors and being able to see natural phenomenons from space.
Interesting.
And I'm sorry, how old are these kids?
They were around 12, middle school age.
Oh, that's fantastic. I wish I had stuff like that when I was 12.
Well, I know. I mean, we know a lot of the people and work with Get Kids into Survey, and it's the same kind of thing. Like, I wish that would have been around my high school. So, how did you get into this business? What got you into the wonderful world of GIS?
I've always been interested in geography.
Okay.
I come from an environmental science background, and I started working for SWCA, an environmental consulting company. And I noticed that there was a need for more GIS. And then I kind of started playing around with Trimble's and data collection, and I decided to go back to school, and I got a master's in GIS.
Ooh.
And where'd you do that?
University of Southern California.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, right.
So you live in Hawaii, and then you went to school in Southern Cal.
Yeah, their program's actually remote, so I got to stay here.
How long have you been here?
10 years.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
All right.
So talk a little bit about this conference. I mean, obviously the message of collaboration and working together. I mean, it seems like it checks a lot of boxes. But what was it like trying to put something like this in support, and what do you think people are getting out of it?
Yeah, it was a lot of hours put into it. But
thank you for those hours.
Yes,
we understand what goes into this.
But I think that it's a really awesome opportunity, especially to connect GIS professionals and land surveyors, which you mentioned earlier that a lot of times those are opposing views and they don't always work together. And so I think being able to understand where each side is coming from and the kind of work that each side is doing really helps us understand how we can do our work better. Like, for example, coming from a GIS side, knowing more about how solar radiation can affect the surveying and the GPS units, like that's applicable to the work I'm doing. So it's kind of nice to see both sides, and you don't always get that opportunity.
I just have to ask, so you've been doing GIS for an environmental firm for 10 years on, one of the most gorgeous places on earth. What is one of the most favorite projects you've ever got to work on? Something like fantastic, game-changing, something cool? You mentioned drones.
Yeah, I have a lot of them. I've gotten to do some restoration on heiaus, which are Hawaiian sacred sites.
Ooh, oh, wow. That's cool.
So they're usually, a lot of times they're along coastal areas. And so, sea level rise is happening and kind of breaking down a lot of these archaeological resources. And so being able to map them from space and then be able to have an archaeologist help with drawing what the original structure should look like and then building it to that.
See, like a lot of people don't realize that connection. And I guess because it brought me to another question about environmental scientists and how, in your experience, how many environmental people, that's what I call them. I have an environmental department and they're the environmental folks. How many of those use and understand the advantages of drones and everything geospatial?
I think it's getting better and better. I will say when I first started, there was definitely a disconnect. And now I think maybe just as technology is getting better, people are starting to appreciate it a little bit more and see that there's a lot of uses for it. There's a lot of ways to collect data that we can use for different types of analysis.
Do the kids coming out of school come in with a better understanding than the previous generation?
I teach GIS, so just remember.
Yeah, just remember, he's sensitive audience here.
I think y'all might be able to answer that better than I can then.
We're failing. We need to do it better.
Yeah, if Sarah doesn't see an immediate improvement, then obviously, Nick, you need to do a better
Yeah,
job.
I'll get back to you.
Fair. All right. Hawaii bus just driven over me. Got it.
Right. So what else? What do you hope to get out of this week?
Well, I'm hoping we get some new members for HIGICC, and that we can all collaborate and meet the people we want to meet and get more jazzed about our everyday work.
So who's your ideal member?
Guess
A big, huge company that puts in a bunch of money and a bunch of people to volunteer more hours?
that would be a great sponsor, but
Shameless plug. It's okay to get used to it.
anyone that works in GIS that wants to meet other people that work in GIS is an ideal member.
That's awesome. Do you guys do any, I think you said mappy hours or like happy hours? Or how
Yes.
often?
You talking about Mappy Hour?
How often do you guys do those?
Try to do them every other month or so. We've kind of had our head down on the conference, but we're going to have more events coming up over the spring and summer. So, and you get emails. We have a newsletter with all the job opportunities and volunteer opportunities and auhanas.
And if somebody was interested, how could they find out some of that information? Is there a website with
Yes.
some letters in it?
Site is higicc.org.
Can you repeat that for us, Sean? What was that?
HIGICC. HIGICC.
HIGICC.
.org. Love it. Anything else you want to get out there?
Thanks for being here.
We ask all our guests the question. We'll ask you this: do you have a mantra that you live by?
That I live by. I think,
or that you like and maybe aspire to live by. It's okay to not be as virtuous
Or
as
if you
Nick
just
here.
something witty you would like to share. That's also okay.
well, I'm a big believer in just having good energy and positive energy towards everything you do and everyone around you.
We concur. We also agree. Then that's a great thing to say. Sarah, absolutely appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for spending some time with us, and enjoy the next couple days.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
Thank you very much.
Bye. All right, so we are back after lunch. Got to say, as far as conferences go, phenomenal lunch.
That chicken was the bomb.
Yeah, that was great. So we're jumping right into this. Ran across this guy to agree to sit down with us. So Puiemau, if you can, give us your name, what you do, and who you're with.
Okay. My name is Puiemau Paopao. I'm a registered land surveyor from American Samoa. And I work in a company, actually a government entity in American Samoa, which is American Samoa Power Authority.
Okay.
And yeah, basically we do a lot of, pretty much a lot of stuff that I learned, doing a lot of research on my own, try to get into GIS, because I'm actually a GIS person, CAD person, and actually a surveyor at the same time.
So you're what we call a unicorn.
You do it all.
It's just that we don't have that resources or anybody back home that can actually do like separate things. When I see around, like you have your own GIS analyst, your own CAD technician, and your own survey crew. But back home, everything I'm trying to put all the pieces into the puzzle so everybody can understand what we provide or the output that we come up with. So that's with that being said is that I do almost everything. So I'm here to learn a lot and obtain a lot of knowledge around here and exposed to a lot of new stuff that I'm seeing around. Because we have like software as GPS and stuff like that back home, which is we actually bought it from one of the exhibitors around here.
Oh, really?
It's the survey supply guys.
Well, hopefully it's still working good, and they're supporting you well. And
they've been really give us a good support on technical support as well. But the only thing I was here and hoping I can get info from is we have a Trinity Pro drone that was recently bought. But the thing with that, we never have training or anything. The drone, it's just the drone itself, no software, no nothing.
Okay.
So we kind of dropped the ball there because I was supposed to follow up on things, but I kind of dropped the ball there because they bought it from somebody else, not even because the personnel inside the procurement don't really understand what I'm
Sure, yeah.
requesting. So
Yeah, a drone shows up and they're like, yeah, just go use it.
Yeah.
And it's just
And
not that
actually-
easy. I'm pretty sure you can find somebody in this room that can
Yeah.
probably help you with that.
I've been talking to a lot of exhibitors around here, and they're really familiar with the Trinity Pro that I have, and I'm hoping I get a contract and get a quote from them, so at least one of them can come over to our to help us up on UA.
So tell us a little more. What's the biggest need, or what's the demand for using the drone or surveying in American Samoa?
Okay, since we're a utility company, we are in water alignments, upgrading of the water lines, because before it was the HDPE water lines that we have.
Oh, sure.
We're replacing those right now, and we have we're even our electric is within ASPA 2 as well, sewer line, and then what's a solid waste.
Okay.
Everything is held in one company, which is ASPA. So imagine that all those four divisions, we have to survey every single one. On top of that, we have to renew all upcoming old leases, and then the need of drone is to help us out with our workload.
Okay, sure.
So that's why it's kind of easy for the engineers to just to have just a easy layout of where they expect the alignment's going to be at, and all that.
What's a day in the life like? I mean, is it survey in the morning and
Yeah.
then come back in and CAD work, or what?
Tell me it's much funner.
And give me a little context. How big is the island?
Yeah, our population is around 60,000.
Okay.
It's not that big. We met some of the colleagues around here that they've been to the island, and they really enjoy being there too as well. And the life there is really like I'm only running a 6-man crew, so like I said, we have limited resources to help us out there. But the way you hear your presentation this morning, you have to work with whatever you have so far to make it work. So so in a 6-man crew, what I actually do is we only have 2 vehicles. So I drop off one crew in certain areas and drop off the other one in certain But the funny thing is, when it rains, nobody they try to cover up our equipment, and then they stand in the rain, because it's the equipment that we taking care of it, because it's help us a lot with our workload.
Yeah.
Well, and that equipment isn't cheap either. Right?
Yeah, it isn't cheap. Those are the challenges that we have back home and GIS. GIS, one of the biggest right now, is like easy for estimates, customer estimates, and all that. So that's why there's a big need in it. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in my and on my plate that I wanted to resolve, but it's just me out there, and then I'm trying to have other engineers come help me out, or GIS. We don't have a GIS analyst in our office. It's just me out there, and then try to figure out the pieces of the puzzle, and then I go through day by day.
How did you get into this business?
So I have I was a 21 Janko in the military. Okay. Which is a survey technician. So when I was really interested in it, and I like working with exploiting the new stuff, like how this thing work, and then I all started with a total station, then started taking some ankle measurements, and the guy that used to work here in Hawaii came over there and had run a business, a survey business. So I went in and applied for a job for it. And I didn't apply, but somebody recommended my name to
Okay.
So I have to ask, how long was the flight to get here to the conference?
5 hours.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah,
Same for us.
Ours is a little longer.
Yeah, my colleague told me that there's a conference in the San Diego conference, the ESRI conference, and I told him, you know me, I hate flying. So when we look up, there's a Pacific Rim conference. I told him I'm gonna go.
It's the closest one. Well, then, which one? There's a conference in New Zealand coming up. Is that FIG?
Yeah, FIG.
Yeah.
So yeah. What does it stand for? International something or other.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the FIG or FIGCOM?
No, never.
Do you do any collaboration with like New Zealand or Australia, anything that direction?
Yeah, there's a few companies that in American Samoa that we do collaboration. In fact, that after these guys, the survey suppliers came over and done some training for our equipment, and then they requested it a training as well. So I kind of trained them how to use the same way we were using it back in American Samoa.
It's awesome. And so there's obviously an active military base there now, and you interact with them as well. Is there a lot of work that you're doing with them, or
Well, we hardly I never had any work done for them. So, but if there's any request, it would have come through one of the agencies that we have is our Department of Public Works.
Okay.
Yeah, they go through them. If they needed help, then they request help to them to us.
Interesting. And I did misspoke. Misspeak. The FIG conference is in Brisbane, Australia.
okay? So not New Zealand.
No
hobbits.
April 4th or April 7th through the 10th.
So pretty close. You'd have to get mobilized and get back on a plane. So maybe not much.
Yeah, I don't know if you can make that quick of a turn.
Right.
So, what do you love about GIS and surveying?
But that really, to me, is about data collection. The way that we bring the data in and the way we use the data, that's one of the things I really like about it. You know, when you click of a button, you see a lot of attributes and stuff on a JS. That's one of the ways that one of the things that I want to go forth with our company. Right now, we don't have any JS hub or portal or whatever. It's just a database that I have that my guys are using as, say, JS. You know, for now.
Now, do you have like an Esri license or maybe QGIS? Like what type of GIS are y'all using?
So we have a Esri enterprise license. So so all the agencies within the government, our American Samoan government pays a partial amount every year or every 2 years, so we can get the enterprise license.
So we just got to get you some help to get them dashboards up.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll talk after.
But I
this.
bet you said in the speech this morning, it's super easy now.
I hope.
Yeah, when you have time, right? Got all
Yeah.
this time. Yeah,
Yeah.
in between dropping people off, making sure you're doing all the other things. Yeah. It's awesome.
Puiemau, really appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us. We do ask everyone one question. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
Or any wise words you would tell somebody getting into the profession?
Yeah, or what? Yeah, what would you tell somebody if they were thinking about this profession?
Well, to me, like what I say, that every ideas or every aspect of an idea, you have to move forward with. That's my mentality, because here I am, somebody that doesn't even know anything about GIS or anything. But to me, if somebody else can do it, I have if there's an idea there, I know it can be it can be come to life, and then that's what I want to come out with here. Is I've been exposed to a lot of stuff, like you said in the presentation, and then to me, it's thinking, and I'm thinking positive about it. And then when I go back home, I have some ideas of how my group gonna work out, and I'm gonna have a lot of interviews for personnel to add into our group.
Oh, okay.
Because now I have a bigger idea that it can't be just me doing all this.
Right.
I need help. So I'm gonna put that idea into reality within the next year or so.
So it sounds like we need to have him back in a year to check in and
It
make
does.
sure that
It
keep you
does.
accountable.
Not only that, I want to be back here to learn more about what's
Yeah,
going on. In
sure.
the
Yeah, 2 days isn't quite enough, right? Appreciate you taking some time with us. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference.
It's a perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, here we are again. I have another person in the hot seat. Chatted with Michelle a little bit at lunch, but real quick, Michelle, give us your name, what you do, and who you're with.
I'm Michelle Alvarado. I do a lot of cartography and general GIS analysis with SWCA. I mostly support archaeologists and biologists doing cultural and biological surveys and anything in between.
So you're a mapping person, or you're a map person that helps archaeologists?
Yes.
You're gonna have to give us a little more of like
some meat
that.
there.
That seems like a pretty big gap
It
between
is.
map person and archaeologist. So can you give us an example, or what? Maybe some
Indiana Jones. That's what she's going for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I help out Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Indiana Jones's assistant.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard that phrase, the guy in the van?
Oh,
That's me.
okay.
Go here. No, but really, so archaeologists go out and do any kind of monitoring survey, or go out and find some new cultural resource, and they take a point, or they draw a polygon, whatever. They bring it to us, and we create maps for their report figures.
Okay. And where do you get these maps, or how do you make these maps?
I have a template for it.
So you said now, do you do that in like Adobe Illustrator? Or you do it in Esri?
Unfortunately, not. Yeah, we do it all in ArcGIS Pro. We have a standardized template because we work for a utilities company, and so everything has to be a little bit dry, kind of boring, but it is exciting. Occasionally, you get weird left field whoopties, and so.
So yeah, you're gonna have to expand on not the boring part, but the exciting part. Yeah. Do you have any? You're gonna have to give us an example of one of those.
So a lot of times you go out into the field and you expect to see some kind of resource. Maybe it's like it can be anything simple, from like a 50-year-old Coke can or a random cairn, and it's not there. So now they have to go out and figure out why it's not there.
Okay.
And a lot of times, if it's close enough to the impact area, it's really important that they figure out why it's not there.
Got it. So are you doing a lot of transcribing? Like, are your field archaeologists still doing paper maps and you're digitizing them in, or are they?
No, it's all field data collection straight into a tablet. Yeah.
Okay, great. Field maps or Survey 123.
Field maps. We're trying to get them to start using Survey 123, and it's the biologists are a little bit more handy with it.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. We, archaeologists, we won't go there, but yeah, no. Fair enough. Okay. So curious, do you guys do any like laser scanning or photography or drone stuff at these sites?
We do. I think mostly in Hawaii, which unfortunately I'm working out of the California offices, so I don't get to do the fun stuff yet.
What would you describe as the fun stuff?
Going out into the field. So I come from a geology background. So
you're saying get out of the van.
Get out of the van, go out and walk, stretch your legs,
Okay.
Get out into the sunshine.
As long as you're not going to go live in the van down by the
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. So how did you get into this industry? We love origin stories here. So what inspired you to get into this?
I thought about it as a career. I mean, as a kid, I used to collect maps. Every trip.
What do you mean collect maps? Like,
yeah, as a kid, I'd go to, like a bookstore or a gas station. At every new place, I'd collect some kind of map from it. It could be like a bus schedule with a map on it. And that was my jam. I just collect maps instead of shot glasses like other people.
Now I think it's like little ducks.
Yeah, the little ducks.
do you still have your map collection?
I do. And so,
amazing.
yeah, for college, I got into geology and I loved it. And then I heard about a work study position at the GIS lab. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. Geography, geology. It's like vaguely related. I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. And it's my favorite story to tell, actually. So, you go in for the interview and they're asking me, you know what GIS is? And I'm like, Google Maps.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly what my grandma said. Yeah.
They're like,
and somehow you got the job after that answer.
fell in love.
That's amazing.
But I have to ask, is there a favorite? Like, is there a map you ever collected, or maybe kind of a historic map that's just like totally your jam?
It's actually not a map. So I went on a rampage. So the book publishing company Taschen, they actually reprinted a facsimile of the Atlas Major from like 1665. So yeah, when I discovered that they had that, I just went on a rampage and collected every single volume, and that's my pride and joy, the Atlas.
That is pretty nerdy. I love it.
Yeah.
I know.
You get
You
nerd
just like
kudos.
Nick.
Nerd
Nick,
sticker.
Yeah,
You get-
Nick has asked that question probably to 20, 30 people. Best answer so far,
Awesome.
by far, I think.
Good to hear.
Yeah. So what else? What are you doing here at the, what's the gist of you, what do you want to get out of the conference?
Well, I noticed there is a huge contingency of surveyors, and that's something I actually have no idea anything about it. So I'm here to learn about that and how it ties into GIS. We can just, help each other better. And as the theme of the conference is La Lima.
What do you think, what's the big thing that surveyors or GIS people can learn from surveyors?
That usually there is a reason for that line.
Oh, well said.
Yeah, we better go ahead and call it quits here. That was very smart.
I know.
Before I say something stupid,
Yeah, right.
I'm drawing a line in the sand. Smart.
So what else? Have you been to a conference like this? Have you been to this conference before?
No, this is my first time to any conference.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I love it. Hope to keep coming back. Maybe make it to Esri at one point.
What part of California? Say.
I'm based out of Big Island, but I'm tied to the California office. So
Interesting. Okay. How big is the group here at the at the Big Island?
it's like maybe 7 to 10 people on Big Island, and the state total, I'd say about 50.
Oh, okay, that's a good sized group. Can you give us maybe your best? I don't want to say favorite, but the most exciting project you've worked on, the one that really got the juices flowing, so to speak.
The paleo projects.
Okay, so what's the Paleo Map projects?
To do a lot of paleo support. It's starting to kick off now. And
Sorry, dumb guys. What's paleo support?
paleontology.
Okay.
So we also employ paleontologists that go out and find, or not find, but they monitor and survey for sensitive fossils. It's a strictly state of California kind of thing.
Okay.
Regulatory stuff, California has so many regulations. So, it's like a probability map of where to find certain fossils. And if they're especially sensitive, then there's a likelihood that you're not going to be able to build anything there.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like similar to other maps that tell you that what you can and can't build on based on slope or groundwater or anything. This is just so this is just another. But it's the difference is it's a probability map because you don't know if it's not like it's present at the surface. You're just assuming that it's there. Most of the other ones, you count the sensitive species.
Thing. So you have a high probability based on the geologic unit, and so odds are high or low whether there's a fossil present in that rock unit.
So I hear,
Are these all dinosaurs?
Mostly.
Not all of them. You get some mammals.
We do have a dinosaur guy that's a friend of the program. He's come on several times. Tom
Herbert.
Yep, Tom Herbert, and he loves geolocating fossils all over the place.
See, this is
It was one of them where and I think he could go out with a high probability. I guess he knows what they are.
Apparently, on the north side of the island, this island, Oahu, there's a dinosaur area, so it must have that correct sediment.
That was my next question. Have you done a probability map in the state of Hawaii?
Not in Hawaii, no. I didn't even think of that because you think, it's all going to be lava. So either you're not going to find it because it got destroyed in a lava flow, or you never know.
Or it was preserved in a lava.
Or it was well preserved, yeah.
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself, but apparently you can get on a side-by-side and they take you through a bunch of dinosaur tracks on the north side of the island.
Well, that's super cool.
Wow, Nick, you are just a wealth of knowledge.
That was totally ChatGPT. Before I got here, I said, ChatGPT, I'm 41 years old and I needed an itinerary, and it pumped one out for me.
I'm pretty sure that's why they filmed Jurassic Park there.
just mind blowing.
I don't know what to say. As soon as you leave, I'm going to pull out the internet and figure I thought it was Island Isla. What? I'm just kidding.
You got to do. Well, you got to do the Jurassic Park helicopter ride. We did it a couple years ago when my wife and I were here, and oh yeah, the guy even like plays the music for you. It's really cool. But now that I know, but now that I know this, I mean, this is just even better.
I mean, I got into mapping partially because of Dr. Grant in Jurassic Park. It was like one of my favorite books. I loved Michael Crichton. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I got goosebumps. All right. We gotta close this up, you know.
Michelle, anything else you want to get out there for us?
Just some advice for beginners, I would say.
Yes, please.
Okay. You don't really think about it, but your motivation definitely drives where you want to go in GIS. So if you're motivated by money, preservation, conservation, that's definitely going to drive where you're going to go.
Pretty smart to me.
Man, I am impressed. I really appreciate you coming by. This has been a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks. It's great to talk to you guys.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, we're back. Another session. Just caught a pretty interesting session over there with the Army Corps and some of the rebuilding efforts in Maui. I thought that was really interesting. But we have Stephen with us. Stephen, if you can, give us your name, who you're with, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Stephen Ambagis. It's a funky Greek name, try and say it once or twice, and good luck with that. But I'm with a company called Air Data Solutions, and we're an aerial mapping company, but I actually started a mapping company out here in Hawaii back in 2008 called Resource Mapping Hawaii.
Okay.
And and then subsequently merged with this bigger company on the mainland, and there you go.
So 2008.
Yep.
What motivated you to start that, and what have you been doing since?
Well, it's a fun story. You're gonna love this, man.
That's why you're here, right?
Yeah. No. So I started out kind of as more of like an academic. I was actually working for the U.S. Geological Survey in Hawaii, or on Big Island, and had come over to Hawaii to try and help them figure out how to map invasive species. Actually, because I have a degree in forest science.
Okay.
And
what are some invasive species?
Oh, bro, there's so many, man. Yeah. So the biggest ones here that most people know and hate, at least in Hawaii, are this one big tree species called Albizia. It's a big emergent species that dominates the canopy. It shades everything else out, and then it's got a really nasty habit of breaking apart under high wind conditions and then clobbering everything underneath it. So it's really nasty. It's mean. Yeah. Yeah. It's really exciting.
Incredibly invasive and then immediately not structurally sound.
Yes, exactly.
It's a great combo.
Yeah. Everybody loves it, man. Actually, we had a hurricane a series of years ago, and because it dominated my neighborhood on the Big Island, it was like, very small hurricane actually, but took down all these albizia, and it took us a week and a half to cut ourselves out of our neighborhood.
Oh,
everybody out there with their chainsaws, bro. It was intense, man. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So,
where does that come from? Is that why the invasive species in general? Is that why I have to fill out a form before they let me off the plane?
That is exactly the deal. Yeah. And so, Hawaii, as you know, now that you've been here for half a minute, it's the most beautiful place on the planet. And, we have probably every ecozone you could possibly imagine, right? Except for true tundra, right? So if you go uphill, 14,000 foot on Mauna Kea, and depending on whether the dry side or the wet side, you can be in a true rainforest or a true desert. You can be, you get all these ecozones, right? So everything that gets to Hawaii loves it here because it's 70 degrees all year round, man.
Right.
And there's food everywhere. And so if you happen to be a plant or an animal, you will find the place that you enjoy, and you will procreate forever and ever.
So no snakes, right? Is that what?
But no snakes.
No
yeah.
snakes?
Yeah, we're working really hard to keep the snakes out because it has a tendency to kill all the birds, right? Yeah.
I lived in Florida a long time, so the Everglades has massive issues with all like the pythons.
Yeah, invasive snakes. Yep.
Okay,
right.
So you started mapping invasive species, and then you said, "Hey, you know what? I just want to start a company." And is that?
Yeah, no, absolutely not, man. Yeah, no, I didn't. I have zero business capacity or knowledge. I mean, now I've got a little bit, but no, I was working at USGS. We developed a technique. We were trying to use satellite data. It wasn't working out real hot. for a whole bunch of reasons that may be obvious to some people. But basically, it's really cloudy here all the time.
Yeah, that's
right?
the first thing I thought about was cloud cover.
Yeah, so it's tough to get good satellite data. Not only that, but at the time in 2008, your resolution of satellite wouldn't be wasn't that great necessarily. And then on top of that, you'd only had maybe 8 bands, right? If you were working with, QuickBird or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And so it just didn't happen to be enough data to really distinguish between these different species. And so we decided we were going to try some aerial approaches. And what it was really, is interesting is that we were trying to take, we're going to use all the newest approaches, right? Because all the technology is developing all the time, right? You got all these different sensors, all these different bands, it's like, it's great. Except that it turns out sometimes the old school approach actually works better than the new school stuff sometimes, right? So in our particular case, because of the complex diversity in Hawaii, we had a better time trying to map invasive species using phenology, meaning how plants look, as opposed to like some spectral signature, right?
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And so we kind of punted, right? Because what we did is we went back to what people have been doing, 50 years ago, taking images and then doing manual interpretation of images. And so what we realized is that if you collected really high resolution data, you could give a giant high resolution data set to a botanist, and then they could, instead of walking through the forest, where it's really, really dense, rainforest, for instance, and then, and then potentially really mean topography where you were going to have a hard time getting around anyway, they could just go ahead and make polygons around all these, different forest canopy species, right? And that turned out to be really, really useful. And even though, again, it was kind of an old school approach to a big problem, it worked. And so, again, I was working for the U.S. Geological Survey, their research entity. And so once we had kind of come up with this approach, they were like, the Nature Conservancy and the state was like, okay, great. We got to implement it now. Let's do it. We want to do it all over the state, right? And but they're a research entity, and so they were, well, who's going to do it? Well, there was nobody here, no survey company that was here ready to do it. And so they're like, well, hey man, you want to start a business? We'll funnel you some contracts, and do, I still had to, compete, but there was nobody to compete against. Right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And we'll give you some seed money. The Nature Conservancy gave me some seed money. And so I bought a plane and a sensor and started mapping, as a 2-man show for
Wow.
years.
I'm so sorry, but he says seed money. He's talking about invasive tree species. It's like so many dad jokes.
Bad. Yeah, I'm sorry to say that, man. That's horrible.
So what was it like in the first few years? A 2-man show. Was that the glory years, as some of those guys call it? Because life was easy and then it grew, or was it harder and then it got easier when you got to people?
Bro, that's a horrible question. It was never easy. Let's just say that. It was always the hardest thing ever. But it was really, really fulfilling. Right?
Okay.
So we were getting stuff done. We felt really good about what we were doing. We were also in the process of trying to go broke all the time, because we were being asked to do probably the hardest thing you do in the survey world, right? So anybody who knows anything about aerial survey, it's already a risky business anyway, right? It's really tough to predict, weather conditions in any particular spot. And then we're going to fly in Hawaii, which is probably one of the most complicated places to fly on the planet, right? Just because of weather and topography and all these things, right, that make it really, really hard, right?
With really expensive equipment.
Right? And then we were not flying down around the residential areas down near the shoreline where it's manageable, right? We're up Mauka, up in the middle of these, valleys that have, 1,000-foot waterfalls, beautiful, right? But as soon as you lose an engine or something happens, where the cloud layers come in, it's just oh, sorry, too bad, and so it's it was spooky, man. It was really, really spooky, but again, fun and rewarding and all the rest of that.
Okay.
And it was cool.
That's amazing.
So I have to ask, so fast forward to today's time, everybody wants to use machine learning and AI to do this automatic classification routine, effectively taking your manual classification, method and then using computers. Good, bad, and different?
Yeah. No, and it's absolutely the way to go. I think the really confounding factor, and anybody who's played with this and spent any real time trying to understand how it works, what you find after a bit of time is that there's times when it works like a charm, man. It's like the best thing since sliced bread, right? You put in a bunch of training data, right? And then you push the button and it's like, yeah, man, this is awesome. And then the other half of the time you're like, oh my God, this is so stupid.
4 times the amount of effort just to use what you have instead of going. So the big question is, do you just then revert back to the old school again, or do you push through? And
No, you revert. At least in our case, we revert back to the old school. And so what we figured out is that it has a lot to do with neighborhood. So it's like, okay, so say you're trying to do analysis for a specific species, right? Well, I'm going to use an example that we started with real early. It's this species called Australian tree fern, right? It's a big tree fern, looks pretty similar to the native tree ferns we have here in Hawaii, but it's only pretty similar. It does look different, right? But it turns out it's kind of invasive, and it not kind of, it's pretty invasive, and it'll dominate the canopy in a bad way. We really want to try and manage for it, right? And so we were like, oh, great, we'll collect all this imagery, we'll do this, visual interpretation, and then, at some point, what we'll do is we'll use all this data that we've collected and done this visual interpretation. Now we have training data, right? We've got this huge data, so we can use it to train. We'll dump it into a model, right? AI model, and then it's just going to pump out all this great results on the backside. And honestly, in some places, it worked really, really good, right? Because the tree species, the tree fern species on the island of Kauai, as an example, right? There wasn't a lot of overlap. They look pretty different. The native hapu that are here, right, don't really look like this Australian tree fern, right? Andropogon doesn't really look like it. And it worked pretty good. But then you take it to another island where there's a couple of different species of ferns that start looking really similar. All of a sudden, the model falls dead
and it
flat.
says the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's all invasive.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and then you got a bunch of false positives, right? And then you just wasted all your time. So what we figured out is that, and that's the deal with all the different species, right? Is that sometimes if the neighborhood is right, meaning our rule of thumb is like this: if you're going to do some kind of AI training model, right, then for you as an image interpreter, if you can look through the landscape and you could say, oh man, this is easy, I can always tell this thing apart from the neighbors around it, right? Then the chances that you're going to be able to make your AI model work really good, great. But if you're like, oh, I got to really think about it because is it north facing slope? Because I know if it's a south facing slope, it's probably not that particular. And I got to use all this kind of ancillary, monkey brain knowledge to understand that that's the species that I want. Then not a good idea for AI.
It's really interesting and very counterintuitive that it has to be a simple project for the really complicated machine learning model to do it right.
Yeah, because it turns out our brains are really still pretty specialized, right? We're really good at working a lot of data problems. And
so where do you see this going? Do you see that gap bridging to where you will have to go old school less and less, and the model is going to get better and better, or do you think it's always going to kind of be in this complementary state?
You know what the deal is? We're in a technological, logarithmic
softball. I know what it is.
Yeah, no, it's definitely getting better all the time, man. I agree. Yeah, 1,000%.
All right. So what else are you going to do with it? Or is that the plan? Is just to stay around here and map trees, or what else?
No, so it's
been doing, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, no, that's where we started, right? Like I said, in 2008, but then, a series of years into it, we realized if we didn't diversify our product set and our clientele, that we were going to die as a company, right? So
you'll finish and
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And so we branched out, started working for all the usual suspects, the DO, everybody, DOI, DOT, DOE, do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then, primarily we work, in throughout the Pacific. So mostly Hawaii, but then also Guam, Saipan, those kind of areas. We do some remote projects. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And, but then, again, recently merged with this company called ADS, Air Data Solutions on the mainland. And now we do all kinds of stuff, man. We do, large scale engineering projects. We do pipeline monitoring. We're all over the map, man. It's pretty fun.
Okay. So you've discussed satellite imagery in Hawaii being problematic at times. You talked about the challenges of manned aerial flight. How about drones? You haven't talked at all about unmanned aerial vehicles. Are you using any kind of UAS or UAVs for your analysis?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I say absolutely, but the truth is that we don't use as much as we could, primarily because what we figured out, one is there's a lot of competition in space, right? It's the window to entry is much lower for drones, right? So you can go and buy a $5,000 drone and put a couple $1,000 sensor on it and do a bunch of work, right? Now, what we've also figured out is that obviously, like so many other folks, is that drones are fantastic if you're looking at a small scale, right? You're going to look at a small area, relatively simple airspace, right? So as soon as you get into complex airspace, it gets more complicated, right? And so, yeah, we actually have a storage room full of drones, and we use them sometimes. But the way that we look at the mapping process is we say, okay, look, we go to a client and we're like, what do you need? What is your data product that you need? And then they tell us what their data product is, and we're like, great. Now we will decide for you what the cheapest way is to get that done.
Right.
And so if it's a drone, then we use a drone. If it's a manned aircraft, then we use a manned aircraft, right? Helicopter, air, fixed wing, whatever. And then we decide usually the approach. And that seems to be a pretty good way to do it, by not trying to be, we're agnostic on platform and sensor.
Not square hole or round peg, what sort of thing. You get like right tool, right trade, right?
Yep. Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
What do you think of the conference so far, and what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. Again, I've been in this state doing this stuff for 16 plus years, and the really cool thing about Hawaii compared to a lot of other places that I've lived and worked is that because we're such a small state and we're also out in the middle of the Pacific, people have to work together more here, I think, than in some places, right? And so the fact that we have a conference like this where it's everybody in GIS and does the GIS work and the state of Hawaii gets together here and does their thing. We have a lot of different conferences that are kind of similar to this, where you have to work together. You have to pool money. You have to pool resources, or, intellectual resources and whatever, in order to make things really work here well, because we are so remote and things are expensive and they're hard to do here. And so, it's great. And this conference has done nothing but grow, and lots of really great, folks get together here and come up with awesome ideas to solve what are really complicated problems out in the middle of the ocean.
Cool stuff. Stephen, one last question. Curious your answer. We ask everybody this. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
A mantra that I live by?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think the mantra that I'm thinking of right now that I think is pretty applicable is that change is the only constant. And so get used to it.
Well said.
Yeah, I can't
Here.
I can't top that. No.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Stephen. That was awesome.
See ya.